Critically Chaotic is a rowdy Dungeons and Dragons podcast that consists of adult themes and humor. Content warnings for this episode can be found in the episode description as well as a link to transcripts. Rest, weary traveler, and enjoy.
In the last episode, the Vox began to deal with the consequences of their foray through the Thistles' hideout. After interrogating the secretary for the Thistles and finding out an important date, the Vox finally left and made camp for the night. That night, Vey also looked inward for answers, and had trouble keeping a lid on her emotions. In the meantime, Jerome got a strange nightly visit in the midst of his poisoned sleep, and woke up with a new companion. The next day, Vey gave everyone a history lesson on what went down between her and Tamrain. Now, the Vox prepares to head back to Wingston.
So, as you may have remembered, there was a necklace in Tamrain's office that was one of the artifacts. I know that we are supposed to return all of those, but I wonder if you all would support me in holding on to this one for a little bit. I think it has more to it than we realize.
Why particularly do you want to keep it? Can we at least maybe talk to Valen about it?
Prefer not. If you'd like, we can step away and discuss it a little bit more, but truthfully, I'd rather tell him that we didn't find it.
I do think I would rather discuss that a little more.
Sure. Did anyone else have any questions before I step away with Kareus?
Leaf shakes his head.
I'd like to point out one thing, though, before you two walk away, of my own idea on you keeping the necklace. Technically, the necklace isn't even Valen's, nor is the museum's. It more would belong to me than them, since I'm descendant of the Fae and the elves and everything. But that's neither here nor there. He has no claim over this necklace, technically, since it was also stolen from where it originally came from. But other than that, I'm all good.
You raise a valid point, Vey. I'm always down for some good old-fashioned thievery. Why? Like, more specifically, what kind of vibes?
There just seems to be some information I can gather from it that would not be gathered if I were to submit it back to the museum, and I want to ensure that it is discovered to its full potential.
Fuck it, that's enough of a reason for me. I'm sold.
Snow gives a little nod and then looks at Kareus and kind of moves her head to the side to move out of earshot of everybody else.
Kareus follows after Snow.
I don't like secret time.
Once we get out of earshot of everybody, I kind of look over to Kareus, and she pulls out the necklace in the palm of her hand and kind of looks up at Kareus and sighs and gives him a little bit of like a hesitant smile. What I'm about to tell you, I don't really tell people this very often. It's not something that I like people knowing about me, so can I ask that you don't share this with the rest of the group?
Of course.
Thank you. So, as you know, Vey and I are sisters. Well, technically we are half-sisters. I was raised in a temple, away from my family, not knowing very much about them beyond small details, and I found out about Vey one day and sought her out, and truly Vey has become the only connection to a past that I know until I found this necklace. Something about it, I don't quite know how to explain it, but it feels familiar to me, and like I might have some connection to it, and I don't want to give that up.
Kareus kind of takes a deep breath and he says, "All right, if if that's the case, I will go with, if you want to keep it, and you don't want me to talk to Valen about it, no matter what, I will go along with that, but I don't super feel comfortable lying to him. And I do know that I don't have to tell him any of the personal information, but if I were the one to talk to him, that I could probably convince him that it's is important that it stays with you. He would understand. But again, if ultimately you don't want that, if I understand, and we can just tell him we didn't find it.
I'm quite okay with that decision. As an alternative, however, if you are uncomfortable with lying, you could potentially say that you saw somebody grab it and you're just not entirely sure where it is right now, and I can just not tell you where I'm keeping it.
I suppose, as long as I'm not the one to talk to Valen directly about this, about whether or not we found the necklace, I just don't think I personally would be the one. If he asks me, he knows me very well, and he might be able to realize I'm lying if I have to lie to him directly.
Snow gives a soft smile and just kind of nods and says, I will leave the judgment with you then. Whatever you think will work out best. Ultimately, as long as I get to keep the necklace, I'm not too picky how it goes.
Okay. Then, okay. I understand it's very important to you, so I want you to be able to keep it.
Thank you very much, Kareus. And she puts a hand on his shoulder and gives him, truly the most, smile full of gratitude. The biggest, just, thank you smile.
Kareus gives her, a soft but, kind of shy smile back and just nods and says, of course.
So Kareus and I return to the group and just kind of smile at everybody, and Snow goes, I'm going to let Kareus choose how we deal with Valen and the necklace, but ultimately I am keeping it, just so you all know.
Cool. So is everybody good to get on the road, pack up our stuff?
Yes.
Lovely. And we will start doing so. So then I guess partway through while we're just walking, Vey and Mogan walk side by side at one part. I feel like it'd be I'm gonna go walk and stretch my legs a bit, being sitting in this car for too long. Mogan, would you like to join me? Guess we'll walk. I feel like Vey does the classic thing where you're walking beside a dude and then she just holds her hand in his arm, just as in the crook of his arm. The little hold.
Cute.
Yeah. Elle stays in the cart.
Aww.
Chilling with Snow. Nowhere near me.
Yeah, Ella's busy bothering Alice.
Yes.
Just the three familiars are all harassing each other.
Cool. So then, they would probably start the conversation, by going, so Mogan, I've been a bit worried about you since you've came back to us the first time, and it never felt like there was a good moment for me to check in on you properly. Is there anything I can do, I guess, now or in the coming days that can help you out? You honestly seemed a little distressed since you went away that first time, and I just wanted to see if there's something I can do to help you out for now.
Oh, he kind of scratches his head. I'm not exactly sure. To be quite honest, I personally think everything has been going better knowing that I've come back. I don't know. I like this group a lot, and I'm thankful that I don't have to be alone.
I'm grateful that you're here as well. And truthfully, in the times that you weren't there, it felt as if there was a piece of the group missing. Though we have Snow to help us out with all the heavy hitting, I felt as if there wasn't someone to watch my back. As you know, you and I were actually more similar than others would suggest. Or though we have different skill sets, I noticed that you and I are we both try our best to keep an eye out for the group in ways that others may not. Kareus is similar in the same way, but I notice you, when we're talking to somebody new, you sort of stand there scarily and kind of like an attack dog. And I always see you like scanning their faces and making sure that they aren't doing anything suspicious or they're not withholding information or lying. And I just like to say that I really appreciate that about you. I'm not the best with that sort of thing. I'm more focused on actually speaking to them instead of figuring out the cracks in their masks.
Yeah, I have to learn to trust people before I trust them. And so it's how I was with you guys too, though. I had to make sure that you guys were trustworthy enough.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. In the line of work that we do, I just told you about my previous group, and well, you can see what happens when you put too much trust right away. So it can backfire, though it's holding on to that mistrust isn't for a long time isn't the best idea. Initially, as you were doing, it's quite wise.
He just kind of nods in agreement.
I'm curious, what were you doing when you were off on your own that first time? The last time it was just a misunderstanding, of course, and I definitely regret leaving you behind for that first part. But when you were gone for that chunk of days, what were you up to?
He kind of just thinks for a moment. I was helping someone get back to their home. Yeah, it was not a good experience, to say the least.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Is it somebody that we should look out for? Are they not a good person, or are they an issue?
I would say yeah. They definitely tricked me into helping them, and they were someone that I had been seeking out, at least a part of a group I've been seeking.
Oh, okay, that group that you had told us about. That makes sense. So did they, I don't know, use you and then throw you away, or was it a stab you in the back sort of situation? Like, how angry are you talking? Like, do you want to go hunt them down as I do with my old group, or are you just sort of like me with like it's a better idea to stay away? Should we go after them? Like,
oh no, I'm going after them. If I ever find this woman again, I will slaughter her.
Where are they stationed normally? Because we have about under a month if we want before like that meeting with the people of my old group, which it seems like we want to go, but also if there's a better thing to do, then we could do that instead. So where would you say they are stationed, and if we can go after them in that way?
That's the thing, is I don't know. I've been seeking out this group for years now, and I've not found their base.
Well, you have all of us to help you out at this point, so do you know the name of their group?
No, I only know the symbol that they carry on their cloth.
Here, I'll take out a knife that I have with me. and then I'll hand it over. Do you want to trace the symbol in the dirt? It's easier to figure it out if I have an actual visual representation of it.
And he draws the symbol to show they what it looks like. This is their symbol.
Okay, and then once I see this symbol, I'll wipe it away. Once we get to the town, I have a couple things I need to do, but I will definitely keep an eye out for anything for that. If you need anything, if you figure out anything or find any more information, or if you need me for anything in the coming days, just let me know, but I will definitely start looking into this.
I very much appreciate you, Vey. And he kind of just puts his hand on her shoulder and just pats really quick.
The classic pat. Thank you, I appreciate you as well, Mogan. Should we rejoin the others, or would you prefer to just keep walking along this way for a while?
I really do not mind. I quite have enjoyed this conversation.
Okay, I feel like we'll just keep walking side by side and just talk about random shit oh cool, look at that really nice flower, and then we'll just probably be oh, you're really good with a weapon, blah blah blah, what kind of tactics do you use, just shit like that, random stuff.
You all continue walking throughout the day, chatting together, sleeping, teaching blackjack, etc., etc. And you all arrive in Wingston in the evening. You proceed through the gate. And are you all going to Valen's place, to the museum? For reference, it's a bit after. It's late enough that it seems like the museum would probably be closed at the moment.
Do we want to maybe wait till tomorrow and then we can sort of get all of our shit done with? I don't think. Or should we go to his house first?
No, yeah, nothing we got is super time sensitive, so.
May as well not bother anyone this late. We can just go back to our, the guild.
If you'd like, I can return the cart to the outpost, since I don't have to sleep quite yet.
Shall we drop the artifacts and stuff off at the guild once we have a room first?
Oh, we can just keep them in our bags. We just had them all separated.
You all are able to easily get back to the Mercenary Guild, get a room. You all settle down for bed. You all get ready, and you all head to sleep. And it is in the middle of the night that I believe something happens.
Something?
So, Jerome didn't actually go to sleep. He just kind of stayed up and, went through his bag a little, and changed back into, costume that would be familiar to y'all by now, the costume of Jack. And just kind of prepared himself mentally and waited for it to get late enough in the day to no longer have any sun showing, to have the moon bright overhead. So Jerome's just kind of mentally preparing himself, and turns to Alice. Alice, I'm gonna go do something kind of shady. Do you want to stick around here with everyone else? It's a little on the dangerous side.
Alice looks really nervous at either option, and she looks over towards the direction of where you would go to get back in through the window, and looks kind of afraid about that, and then looks back at you as you talk about that it's dangerous, and looks also very terrified about that. So she's almost kind of rocking on her little paws, she's not sure what to do.
Tell you what, if you do you have anybody in the group that you trust yet? If not, then you can tag along with me and I'll just keep you in my coat and we'll be sneaky buddies, you know?
She considers a little bit and then steps towards you as if to say, just keep me in your coat.
Alright. I'll trust you to... You've been pretty quiet so far, but when things are going down, you gotta be quiet, okay?
She happily snuggles under your coat.
Jerome takes a deep breath and lets it out. It's showtime. Your name's Jack, and you've got business. Jerome, now in the disguise of Jack, makes his way across the rooftops towards where he knows the sort of underbelly of town to be, where all the illicit dealings are, and starts kind of going through all of the alleyways full of alleys of people like trying to fence their various goods, proclaiming they're of the utmost high quality. There's nothing wrong with them. They're fantastic. There's a decent chance that they're not, that they're just scams. He passes by a bunch of people who are begging for coins, begging for whatever, and does his best not to particularly pay attention to the various back alley deals that he sees at the end of alleys, or the various stabbings that may or may not be happening that he does not notice actively, and just kind of looks.
He's looking around for a while, kind of keeping to himself, moving with the crowd, not really staying in one place for too long. And he catches the eye of a human man who has like kind of a dirty face, really rugged features, and he has a few dogs at his side that are tied up. And he seems to be selling a collection of animals in various cages and whatnot.
Jack kind of presses in a little bit on the coat spot where Alice is laying before approaching. Samesh, it's good to see you again.
He kind of glances up. Jack, what brings you back over here, huh?
Oh, you know, the usual. People to stab, things to steal.
You looking for something to buy out here?
The things that I'm looking for are of a less material sort these days. I'm looking for information. Can you help me find some information? I know that you use some of your various contacts in the city that I haven't been in touch with for a while, and we're old pals, I would say.
Well, it depends on what exactly you're looking for. I can maybe point you in the right direction for a fee.
Of course, of course. Jerome pulls an object out of his pocket and shows it to Sumesh. I found this at some point in my travels, and it looked a little bit odd. I was looking for any sort of information you might have about it. Or if you know anybody who might be able to tell me a little bit more. Jerome pulls out 10 gold pieces and offers them towards Sumesh.
Samesh takes the money first, and he carefully goes through each coin. He bites on each of them to make sure that they're real and that they don't bend at all. So he seems very satisfied, and he slips it back into his own coin purse. And he looks it over. He kind of judges it, and then he gestures to be able to hold it if you'll let him.
I tentatively hand it over to him.
He holds it in his hands, he flips it over, he checks all sides of it, and he says, I got no fucking clue. But, I was never really the type to care about this stuff. I'm more about animals. Harbor should probably know something about it. Last I heard, she was 2 blocks over. Search for something with candles. That's all I heard about. And he hands it back over to you.
That's all I needed. Thank you. I hope to do further business with you in the future. Take care of your creatures.
Don't worry, I will. And if you ever have anything interesting, I'd be willing to buy it off you.
So Jerome heads over in the direction Sumesh pointed at and looks for something associated with candles.
You're searching for a little bit, and it's when you get several alleys over that you're able to notice a faint glow kind of towards the end. And as you approach, You see that it is some kind of like late night gambling thing that's being hosted outside with cards that people are doing. There's like a few different makeshift tables made out of barrels and whatnot, and there are several beggars that are seated just kind of around the place trying to beg anybody that goes through the alleyway. And you notice one familiar woman who you can identify as being Harbor.
I approach her and toss 2 gold pieces into her begging object, whether it be like a hat or a plate, whatever.
She kind of looks up and you see the glint of familiarity in her eyes. Oh, kind stranger, what brings you and your generous wallet out this way?
Oh, I was looking for something to pass the time, and you seemed like you would be able to help me amuse myself in some sort of way. Tell me, would you be able to help me find out a few answers?
Depends on what it is that you're looking for, Sonny.
I've come across an object recently, that I'm not entirely certain about the origins of, and would very much so like to know more about. He pulls the object out of where he just stowed it and shows it to her. Tell me, would you happen to know anything about this?
She kind of looks at it and her eyebrows raise a little bit, and she gets up onto her feet, kind of half leaning on like an old branch that she uses as a cane. And she says, "Oh, I think I do, but I wouldn't go flashing that around here." And she kind of like gestures a little bit with her head for you to walk with her as she starts heading out of the alleyway. You know, if you really want information, I think you'd better attend a service.
A service?
They're hosting one tonight if you would like to come.
I would be most happy to.
And she walks kind of silently with you for a little bit, and it's after you get about 2 more alleys away that her somewhat limp, as she's been leaning on her cane, kind of like disappears and she's walking with more stride, and she leaves the cane just leaning against some random building. And she picks up a little bit more in speed as she kind of weaves throughout the various back alleys, some of them with people, most of them deserted. And she's wiping like some of the dirt off her face and ruffling her hair. Jack, what exactly brings you to town, and where did you get that mask?
Good to have you back, Harper. I was... You know how I am. I like to pick up little trinkets when I go on my little escapades. I raided the local Thistle's hideout pretty recently, and I came across this object on a wall, and it was most peculiar. Honestly, it was... I did not get good vibes about it. And I was just desperately curious about it, because it seemed off.
Well, I'll say. So you really have no idea at all what that's for?
About the extent of my knowledge, it's some vaguely religious object, but...
Religious indeed. Have you ever heard of the God Mask?
The God Mask? I can't say that I have.
Well, that's a very common symbol, and it's very useful for certain, how should you say, underground services. Listen, it'll easily get you into a specific back meeting, but I don't know if you really want to get involved in all that if all you wanted to know was what it was for.
How underhanded, how underground are we talking for the services?
Well, a mask already isn't exactly known to most of those in the light, but this one in particular is for specific, less savory folks. Let's just say that. They can get you a lot of things, they can steal a lot of things, they can lie about a lot of things, and you're really playing your cards if you go in there.
You know me. I love playing my cards. I think it might be interesting to see what more this has at hand.
So you want to go in now?
I want to go in. Do I want to talk to the party about this?
You seem hesitant, Jack. You've never hesitated before.
I've come across a situation recently that's made me perhaps think a little bit more before I go charging headfirst into situations, but this is not one of those times that I should be thinking. Let's proceed.
All right. Listen, do you want any kind of backup, or are you gonna go in on your own?
It would be good to have a friendly face of sorts in there as well.
All right. Here. And she, kind of ducks into, one little side corner. All right. Do you know about the Heavy Eel, the bar? It's a bit downtown, kind of between Old Town and the Noble District.
I'm familiar.
All right. You're gonna go there, and you're gonna wait behind the back for me. I have to go get my own mask before we can go in. They won't accept anyone without one of those. All right? So, meet me there. I'll see you there in half an hour.
Sounds like a plan.
So, do you head on over there?
I'm gonna try and follow her and see what she's doing. When she starts heading in the sort of direction of the Heavy Eel, I'm gonna sprint ahead to try and get ahead of her.
All right, roll stealth for me to see if she notices that you're tailing her.
All right, how does a 24 work?
Jesus Christ.
My God.
All right, she doesn't even notice you as you're tailing her. You're following her, and she does this kind of similar thing where she's snaking through various areas. She makes several stops in various places to leave behind part of her outfit. So, she leaves behind an old blanket that she was using. She leaves that under a barrel in one of the alleyways. She ditches her cloak in another one. She picks up a fresh outfit in another area and changes completely. And eventually she steps out into normal roads after she's completely gotten changed, and she no longer looks like the old haggard beggar that you approached her with. She now just looks like a young human woman who's just walking on the town at night. And she's walking through and eventually goes to Old Town, goes deeper into Old Town and into a house. And she's in there for about 10 minutes or so. Do you try to watch her through a window or anything? In which case, that'll need another stealth check, since people will see you looking in the window, and also she will have a chance to see you in said window.
Yes, I want to try and... I don't want to watch, I just want to listen. Alright, that is 18.
You listen closely, and you hear her kind of rummaging around. She hums to herself a little bit. And you hear the occasional mutter, what in the world is Jack doing back in here? And stuff like that. Just kind of wondering about you and about what you want with the mask and everything. And she finally heads back on out. And she has a little sack now. Dressed very similarly still. She's thrown on a new cloak, but otherwise she's still in the same outfit. And she proceeds, and you can tell based on the route that she's taking that she's heading towards the Heavy Eel.
Alright, sweet. Would I be able to, going along the roofs very quickly, dashing, be able to beat her to the Heavy Eel?
Yeah, if you're dashing, because she's trying to seem normal and fine.
I would like to do so.
Alright. You're able to get there before her.
I do my best to appear, as nonchalant as possible, just kind of leaning against a post, flipping a coin.
You can feel Alice shivering a little in your coat, who is clearly very nervous about everything that you're up to.
Jack just kind of pats gently on the coat side, reaching into the inner pocket she's in and just gently petting her head. For out of roleplay, does Jerome have the telepathic familiar ability?
No.
Okay. Well then, he doesn't say anything, just very quietly and very, like, casually just pets her head to reassure her.
Finally, Harbor approaches, ducks around the back to where you are, and approaches. All right, got my mask. You ready?
As always.
So she leads you again, and you don't go very far from the bar. You head down the alleyway that is adjacent to it, and you head down a couple steps towards like a dirty gutter type area. And there is a door that seems like it would just lead into like the back kitchen or something of another establishment. And she kind of glances at you and she says, "Okay, put on the mask." And she takes out her own and slips it on.
Jack does so, putting on the mask.
Nothing happens. There's no creepy goo. Need to reassure you about that. So she knocks on the door, and there is like a little slidey gate in the door that like opens up just barely to, and you can't see anything inside. It's all dark, but you see that the little slot opens slightly, and then it closes again, and there is the sound of a lock unclicking from inside. And Harbor nudges you a little bit and then opens the door for you to proceed inside. And inside it is fairly dark. Harbor kind of like grabs your arm to kind of guide you forward. So it's very dim light, so you're still able to make out some stuff. And it is a long hallway. There are some steps, and even though Harbor's human and therefore can't really see, it seems like she's been here before, and so she knows where she's going. And she leads you down the hall, down the steps. And every so often you see kind of like a couple hooded figures like off to the side, and you hear quiet whispers like they're speaking together, but there's no light, nobody has a candle on or anything. And she leads you to a door, and she opens it up, and it opens up into what appears to be some sort of dining room. You can make out all the tables and whatnot, and then you kind of realize that this is some kind of like restaurant establishment, but all of the none of the candles are lit, and the windows that would be letting in some moonlight, there are thick curtains that are over it so that nothing from the street shines in. And in the very center of the room, there is 3 people. All of them are wearing masks, and the one in the center is holding a candle that is the only source of light. And the person in the middle has the most extravagant mask out of everyone. As you kind of look around, all the other people that are there, they have very plain masks, much like the ones that you are wearing. But the person in the center has a more elaborate one. It seems to be like, instead of just a simple, like, wooden mask of some kind, this one seems to be like, as though it is made of cloth. Like, it's so clearly made of, like, wood or some kind of metal, but it's carved as though it is a cloth mask of some sort. And they're just standing there holding the candle, and the other 2 people are giving what appears to be some sort of sermon of some kind. You walk in halfway, and so it's kind of hard to tell what exactly they're talking about, but it's a kind of long, droning sermon, and it's discussing a lot about the god Mask and his history, and there's a lot of prayers, and a lot of discussions of keeping up the darkness and how the dark will keep you safe, and all sorts of stuff like that. And that goes on for quite a while, maybe like a good 20 minutes. I don't know if Jack wants to do anything while the sermon is droning on.
Jack's just kind of like looking around the room, trying to take in as much as possible and seem as like as much as like he belongs there as he can, and also just like continuing to very subtly like pat at his pocket where Alice is to reassure her.
Roll a perception check for me to see if you notice anything special in the room.
Okay. 17.
You're looking around, and it's hard to tell who any of these people are. Most of them are, like, all of them have on masks of some kind. and a good majority of them are also wearing cloaks of some kind to hide any other identifying features. You can make out the ears of most of the patrons, and for some of them you can also make out hair, but not enough to really identify like anyone in particular. And after about 20 minutes, the main service kind of concludes, and the person in the middle that has the more elaborate mask, they lift the candle kind of to the lip area of the mask, and you hear the sound of a breath kind of swoosh out, and the candle is extinguished, which sends the whole room into darkness. And then everyone kind of moves on their own. It's not really like in a pattern or anything like that, but everyone seems to move into circles and start very quietly whispering. And it creates this like almost like chanting kind of whispering effect, as though like everyone's speaking in kind of a rhythm to keep up this like almost buzz of noise. Um, but everyone is sort of like just keeping to each other and speaking together. And this is about when Harbor turns to you and says in a very low voice, "All right, now, if you want to look normal, you can keep chatting, or we can leave."
This is about as much as I wanted. I'd say this is enough. Maybe, no, yes, we should leave. I have people who may or may not be keeping an eye on me during the night hours, so it would be most wise of us to split. I don't know if we'll be, or if I'll be returning.
She kind of gives you like a subtle nod and then guides you back towards the main door. Roll stealth for me to see if people necessarily notice you like turning to leave seemingly prematurely.
22.
All right. Harbor stays really close to you, following your lead. She seems to know that you are the far sneakier one out of the both of you, and you're able to almost like drift from group to group without like really staying there to make it seem as though you're milling around and having conversation, but you're really just moving towards the door more and more. And you're able to get to the door, and that is where Harbor opens the door and quickly ushers you through and lets it shut behind her. And she's moving a lot more quickly than she was to get into the meeting. There are far fewer people in the cloaks, but you do notice that the figures kind of turn to watch you as she is guiding you back towards the door. And you exit out into the alleyway, and she continues to pull you along without pulling her mask off, and it's not until you get around the corner that she takes hers off and says, "All right, I don't know if they'll exactly be suspicious. They probably will, but it's best that you keep on moving."
Very well. Thank you for all of your help this evening, Harbor. Jerome pulls one of the sapphires that he lifted from the bandit's hideout and passes it over to her. You've never known me to be ungrateful, and this is far from an exception.
Her eyebrows raise with a lot of intrigue as she quickly takes the gem and pockets it, and she says, "Well, you've always been quite generous to me, so maybe it's good that you came back into town. Should you need me for anything, you'll know where to find me."
Very well. One last thing before you go do your thing. How often would you say these services meet?
I don't attend them regularly myself. I've heard at least once a week, might be more. They always change location. I only knew about this because I was planning on visiting next week, and so I was trying to keep a hold of how often they would meet, but it'll definitely be changed by next week.
Very well. If you could perhaps do me a favor, I wouldn't be unappreciative. Help me keep track of where they'll be meeting next, and for the foreseeable future until I scoot, as it were.
Come find me again, and maybe I'll have that information for you. I don't have it tonight.
That's all I ask. Thank you for your time.
Jack, what exactly has you interested in this whole mask business?
Jack pauses, silently thinking to himself. the people I told you about who are concerned about my more nightly activities, about my presence. I must admit, I'm somewhat concerned with them. They seem to have something going on with this mask thing, and if they know about this, about what's been happening with the sort of illicit activities, they seemed like the good sort, but if they're associated with it, well, it's better to know than to not. Let's just keep it at that.
She gives kind of like a short laugh and says, "All right, but just remember, people know that you're going soft. It's not going to be good for you or your new friends."
Soft. Jack pulls the Jack card from the bloody deck of cards he'd picked up from the bandit's hideout out of his coat and holds it up. You think I've gone soft? That's adorable, Harper. That's very cute. And then he flicks it towards her.
She kind of moves her head so it goes past her. "I'm just saying, the Jack that I met, he didn't run with no one."
Well, things do change with time, and it can be good to have a crew. It can be bad, yes, but having people there that you can count on to not immediately stab you in the back, it's nice.
"Just be careful, Jack. What am I going to do without someone that gives me sapphires as a tip?" And she gives you a little bit of a smirk, and then she changes directions from you and goes off down a new alleyway.
Jack climbs up onto the roofs and starts heading back to the hotel. About halfway, or not the hotel, the guild. I just keep thinking of it as a hotel in my mind. About halfway back, the mercenary hotel. About halfway back, he finds a good little roof that's kind of as closed off as a roof can be, and changes back into Jerome, changing his outfit pretty quickly, and starts like petting Alice. Or before that, though, can I do a perception check to make sure that there's nobody like watching?
Sure.
All right. Oh, that is a nat 20.
Okay, so you're kind of looking around, you're trying to keep track of things, and you spot a couple that's on the street below that they kind of like catch your eye because like they're kind of glancing up at you, and then when you look at them, they quickly like kind of glance away as though they're just having conversation and head down the street.
Sus. All right. I'm going to change direction to after making eye contact with those people who very consciously made eye contact with Jack and moved down the street to go like in a different direction, like more towards the museum than the mercenary guild.
All right. I'll keep your nat 20 as you're kind of going. You're walking, you get to the museum area, and nobody seems to notice you. There are like a few people on the street, but none of them glance up towards the roofs at all, so nobody seems to notice that you're up there.
I knew the security Valen hired was shit. Don't even see somebody sneaking along the rooftops. FSMH. So, noticing that nobody's there, I'm not, like, on the museum, but, like, kind of by it, and noticing that nobody notices me, I change back into Jerome, change the clothes, pull Alice out of the pocket, and just, like, cuddle her to my chest and like start petting her head. I'm so fucking sorry about that, Alice. I did not think we would be going into that deep shit. I knew it would be a little on the dangerous side. I did not think it would be going straight into enemy territory. I am so sorry. I would not have brought you with me if I'd thought it would have been that bad. Gosh.
She is trembling, being very afraid, and she just snuggles harder against your chest.
Jerome is hardcore cuddling Alice and starts making his way back to the hotel on street level as Jerome just like petting Alice and like giving her reassurances, still keeping kind of an eye out but significantly less so, most of his attention directed at Alice.
Okay. You're able to get back to the hotel and you don't notice anybody tailing you or anything like that using your same perception check.
Alright, I'm gonna go to the opposite side of the hotel of where everyone else is staying and scale up on that side to get back to the roof.
Alright. You get back to the roof, and all is well.
Yeah, I'm just gonna keep holding Alice and reassuring her before settling in for the night.
Critically Chaotic is a Dungeons & Dragons podcast brought to you by the following people. The DM is Xaan, who can be found as @Xandir on all platforms. They is played by Alex, who simply cannot be found. Snow is played by Bean, aka Alexa, who can be found in a variety of ways, but mainly @Alexandra_Jaden on Twitter. Kareus is played by Kian, who can be found as @LostFanboy on most platforms. Jerome is played by Lady, who writes, quote, "And that's all you get, you dirty gremlins." Mogan is played by Queen, who chooses not to be located at this time or ever. Leaf is played by Selah, also known as Strawberry online, who can be found as @_strawberrymilk on Twitter. The theme song is Melody by Emorie. If you would like to support Critically Chaotic, please consider leaving a 5-star review and following us on whatever podcast listening platform you are currently using. You can find us @CritChaoticPod on Twitter with no underscores, where we post updates and retweet fan content. For any other platform you would like to see us on, please look in the description. We will see you next week for the continuing adventures of Vox Anima. Have a great week, everyone.
Well, we're doing research anyway, so this was part of the research. I wanted to see if that was some like a god symbol. Maybe one of the ones that was included in Tamrain's journal, which would be so interesting if it was related to Tamrain.
Would be. I have a feeling everything's connected in this fucking world, so